How's it going, everybody? This is Kevin Kring here with College Golf Local. I hope everybody is handling this kind of uncertain time right now as well as possible. But I'm just here to hopefully be able to conduct a couple interviews to provide as much information as possible for anybody who is looking at possibly playing golf at the next level. And today I am very excited to welcome our guest, CJ Ball. She is the women's golf coach at Drury, and just finished up her first year coaching there, and also played her college golf at Central Arkansas. So has all sorts of knowledge from both the side of a player and a coach. So we're going to ask her a handful of questions that we've come up with, as well as some that you have submitted to us. So all that said, CJ, thank you for being with us. And how are you doing today?
Doing good, really good. Just trying to make it through all of this.
I hear you and everybody else. Well,
yeah.
I won't try to keep you for too long, so let's go ahead and get started. My first question for you is, how do you start the recruiting process? Basically, like, what does it take for a player to be someone you've never heard of to be someone who you are? I want this player. They're doing everything that I need to have be a Drury Panther golfer for me.
Yeah, so I'm definitely starting to figure out my recruiting style and process and kind of what works and what doesn't work for me. And typically I've signed up for other recruiting services that are available online, and just try to find some in the area. I'm definitely keeping it local right now, not really going global yet for international students. Trying to get a feel for all of that. And I start with email is what I typically do to reach out to them. And then, if they respond back, then I say, hey, would you want to jump on a phone call this week? Or definitely try to get something set up as soon as possible, just to get on their radar and inform them about Drury and our program and kind of what, I'm trying to do and make our program. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So also all that kind of said, I mean, is there any sort of like particular trait or anything you can be kind of specific or broad in what you're just looking for in a potential recruit?
So right now I'm definitely looking for GPA is my first thing I kind of fall to is grades. So Drury is very, high academic driven. So if you have a 3.2 is kind of what I base it off, 3.2 and higher, then I definitely take a look at you. And then, the second thing I look at is scores and what stats you're keeping and things like that. So I would like to get girls, that are trending, in the 70s and consistently shooting in the 70s is what I would like. That's for sure. It shows progress. It shows hard work, and it shows that they're able to potentially get lower. So, yeah.
Yeah. I love that your answer was GPA to start. I mean, so many coaches are saying, oh, I look for a score like this. I'm looking for this competition level, but to start in academics, I think that's an amazing place to start, because that's ultimately what people go to college for.
Exactly. Yeah. Not everybody's dream is to be a professional golfer. So it's pretty rare and it's hard to do. And if it is something that you're dreaming for, then, I mean, that's like the jackpot. I feel like to pick a D2 team and that's your goal. Your end goal is to be a pro golfer, but yeah, you're still smart. So academically, but yeah, it is important. I feel like it shows that they have, drive, and they're able to be like, they can manage their time better and, things like that. So.
That's awesome. Well, that's a great answer. I'm happy to hear that. So a lot of things that I've seen with some of the kids that I've worked with, we're helping them build resumes, things that they can kind of send out, a little introduction to coaches, something like that.
Yeah.
Whenever you do receive a resume from a player, what sort of information are you going to first on that resume? I know you already mentioned GPA. Is there anything else on a resume that you find to be unique that you're like really happy to see informationally? And on the contrary, is there anything that is on a resume that you just are like, there is no point in somebody sharing this with me?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't really noticed anything yet that I'm like, oh, I don't care about that really. I think it's important that they have like extracurricular activities, maybe like volunteer things that they're doing. I think that shows a character trait, that they're, giving of their time and kind of selfless in that aspect of that. So, cause that's kind of what I'm looking for on my team, is someone who can be a team player, who can get along, who is well liked in their community. So, I mean, and I look for stats. I don't necessarily want to just see tournament scores. I want to see how they're able to work on improving towards getting better. So yeah.
That's great. Like I said, it really sounds like through kind of like GPA, character, those sort of things, like you're really creating a culture that I'm sure many parents would want to send their kids to. You know, that's really impressive for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had two great coaches in college, and I had one not so great coach. I had three coaches in my career in college. And so I got to see both, like a great coach and a pretty terrible one. So I was like, well, I know what I want to be, and I know what I want to surround my student athletes with. So to make their 4 years there as best as possible. But
yeah, that's you can't ask for more than that. I had the same coach all throughout who was amazing, but we had some different kind of atmospheres within our team, and it was very different to see whenever you get some guys who have maybe, you know, not quite as motivated in certain ways or whatever, how it can really bring down an entire team. So like I said, that's a testament to kind of what you're building, and I think that couldn't make Drury sound any better in my eyes, just to have like kind of that culture first, because I can speak on experience. That is so important, because I know golf's an individual sport, but in college you're a team and you go everywhere with your teammates. So
yeah, you spend a lot of time with your team. You practice, you know, after class with your team. I mean, with golf, you travel a lot longer of a period than, you know, other type of sports. So you're gone for 4 days at a time, or sometimes longer if it's a really big trip or things like that. So definitely create a good team bond is pretty important. So
yeah, that's awesome. When would you, and this can go a couple ways with this, but if you were giving advice to a kid who's middle school, high school, whatever, or to their parents, when would you recommend as kind of a true, like you probably want to start building a resume, talking to coaches, as a date? Because a lot of times kids don't even realize they want to play in college until they're like a senior, and then a lot of roster spots are filled. So you know, in my view, I think kids should probably start the process erring on the earlier side than later. But you know, you're in the seat that actually kind of can make that call a little bit. So when would you recommend that somebody get started with this whole process?
I definitely recommend, you know, as soon as they're into high school, like ninth grade, freshman year, start, because that's typically when you're able to start, you know, playing in bigger tournaments in the summers that aren't school related tournaments. And you can start keeping your, you know, track of your scores and your stats, and then just keep track of, you know, your improvement and how you're progressing your game. So I think it shows that you're committed if you're able to keep track from ninth grade till senior year. And like you said, like I'm already recruiting girls for 2021 right now, and I'm trying to get them committed by, you know, end of summer. So I'm already almost filling my roster for 2 years from now. So, or a year from now. So it's like, you need to get on the ball on some of this, but yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, because it's like you say, I get contacted by, you know, people who are wanting to come in this fall still. And I'm like, I've already filled my roster up. So you should have been on top of this last year, is kind of when you should, about a year ahead is when you want to be doing all of this.
Yeah. I've heard from parents where they've pushed back on that, and they've said, you know, oh, we just don't want to push them into, you know, when they're a freshman, we don't want to push them into golf.
Yeah.
You know, we don't really know if they're going to be that into it, you know, that sort of thing. And I tell them, it's like, well, if there's even like this much of a chance, it's just good to get your name out there, have a resume, and just send an email to a coach. Because if you just decide to wait until they want it, it's just likely too late. So I mean, like I said, freshman year is kind of what I was thinking as well. So I'm glad to hear that you think that as well.
Yeah. And even, I mean, I'm recruiting heavily right now a player who is a dual sport player. She's, you know, an All-American in basketball, and she's also, you know, winning tournaments in golf as well. So she's successful in both sports, but she has chosen that she wants to be more serious in the college years of golf rather than go towards basketball. So that's another big thing that I think is great on people's resume if you're a dual sport athlete, because it shows you can juggle a lot more than just, you know, one thing and be successful at it. So
So what would you say to a parent then if they think that my kid needs a golf scholarship, so they are going to play every season, their focus will be golf?
Yeah.
Because if they take the winter off to play basketball, they're not going to be as good come like the spring season. What would you tell to a parent who would have that kind of concern about potentially having a dual sport athlete because it might hurt their chances at, being really good at golf?
Um, I I don't think that being a dual sport athlete is necessarily hurtful towards your game unless you're playing like softball and golf or
Yeah.
something like that, because they're kind of opposite seasons, and golf is a year-round sport nowadays. I mean, they've created so many facilities where you can go and play on a simulator or, top golf type places. So I definitely think that I don't think you should stray them to not do what they want to do. So I think
also
it should be based on their decision. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think too that golf over the last 10 years or so has really turned into much more of an athletic kind of sport. So just as well as you can just do developing hand-eye coordination, your power jumping, all those sort of things that other sports kind of promote is great in golf. And it's something, I mean, I'm 30 now. I wish I would have known that a little bit more. I'm trying to develop it now and I feel like I'm too late.
I agree with that. Yeah. I definitely wish I would have stuck with more than just one sport, but because it would have, I feel like, made me a little bit more well-rounded. And like you say, it would have developed other aspects of my fitness, so.
Yeah, I hear you on that. So this is the last question I kind of have before we'll just jump into our parents or our parents' questions. But just again, this is kind of be broad or kind of specific, whatever you think. But what would just be the best advice that you would give to a junior golfer who aspires to play at the next level?
Well, I just keep working hard and definitely be optimistic. You really need, golf is mental, and we are really big on mental game with my team. And so we're constantly, trying to make ourselves more self-aware of our surroundings and just our mental state and how we see each day, and kind of just having a positive outlook on it, because, the harder you are on yourself, I feel like the more down you'll get and you won't have as much success in golf. So yeah, definitely. And just have fun with it. Don't take it too seriously. I know that I should have taken that more to heart when I was growing up playing golf. Just don't take it too seriously. It's just golf. So yeah.
Yeah, we're lucky to get to do it. And it's a pretty amazing thing. So you're spot on with that for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump in. I got just a couple questions here from parents, and we'll wrap this up. This first one is, at what point should a senior in high school consider picking a college and attempt to maybe walk on versus waiting for a college to sign them? So basically, like, is there a time in a senior year when a kid should maybe just try to commit to walking on, or is there like a thresh point when it's like, okay, this is too late, that sort of thing?
One thing I have seen is I feel like a lot of people don't, they get so focused on, okay, I want to go to this school. Some people are like, oh, well, I want to go to MSU. I want to play D1. I can just walk on. Well, the reality of that happening is pretty slim. Because a lot of the times they make walk-on qualifying a lot harder than it would be to even make it onto the team. So definitely, I say weigh your options. Definitely reach out to multiple schools. Don't just stick to a D1 type of mindset. There's a lot of great D2 schools out there that are very competitive and have great golf and are shooting almost better than some D1 teams, that's for sure. So just a lot of people, I think, need to enroll to multiple schools and just get their name out there to multiple schools. And then definitely you need to pick. So then you have more options and less time frame. So you can, pick it before your senior is what you should do. Maybe like have a better idea going into it when you're a senior, and then you can drop it down to like 5 options, and then pick it before, I'd say Christmas time is what is a good time, because signing day is typically in November is when NLIs are sent out and to be signed. So if you're able to have your choice in before that winter time, then I feel like you're on a much better track and you won't be scrambling, because then by the time spring comes around, coaches are like, sorry, I don't have any room on my team, or you're going to have to just go for a walk-on option. And then you're really setting yourself up for some stress and some hard times, that's for sure.
Yeah, because just because like a walk-on option exists, that doesn't mean you are on the team. Like that means the odds of you being on the team are very, very, very slim. So in reality, like you should probably just be mentally ready to not play college golf if you're going in with just the I will walk on without a roster spot committed to me mentality.
Exactly. Yeah, that is for sure. Because like you say, it's a lot harder than people think it is. It's not just high school golf where they'll take anybody. So
right, warm bodies.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is from another parent here. How much stock do you put in a swing video that a recruit would send to you, either through their resume or individually if you haven't seen them play? How much do you care about a swing video?
If they're able to videotape it correctly, then I will definitely, like if it's a swing coach, for instance, that sends me the video, I will definitely take a lot more of that than I would if it's like a parent who's at like a caddy corner angle where I can't really see, where they're in position of their backswing and things like that. So, but yeah, in this time right now, like quarantine time, it's kind of the thing where I need swing videos. I don't have the option to go see them in person. So I'm definitely putting a lot more importance on swing videos right now than I would, because I don't know when I'll be able to go see any of the girls that I'm trying to recruit. But like I said, if you're able to know and be a little knowledgeable on how to videotape a swing, then yeah, I'll definitely keep it in my archive for later. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard from some people where they are working so hard on getting their swing to look a certain way to then record it to send it. But for you, is the swing video more it just can tell a broader picture whenever you're looking at somebody's scores and what they're shooting? Is that how you would maybe characterize it?
And I also, I usually tell them, instead of just sending me swing videos, I want them to have somebody videotape them when they're playing a hole. And I want them to walk me through their whole entire hole. So I want to see how their course management is. I want to see their routine. I want to kind of see how their reaction is to each shot. Because I feel like that tells a little bit more about your game than just seeing a swing video. Because like you said, when you're hitting on the range, it can be however you want it to look. A lot of the times people look better hitting on the range than they do when they're playing. So, yeah.
I think that, I haven't heard that before, like videoing yourself playing a hole like that. That is marvelous advice that I would tell anybody, because that creates such a broader picture of how a player actually is. It takes you inside the ropes kind of. So that's great advice, and I'm probably going to steal that and tell that to anybody who will listen to me. So I appreciate that one.
Yeah, definitely. I was lucky enough to have, an LPGA. He was a swing pro for LPGA players when I was 15 years old. So I traveled to Oklahoma to see him from Arkansas every weekend. And he definitely gave me a ton of knowledge on the game. And so I was able to use that, and I still use it to this day. So that was one of his things that we used to do all the time. He would just videotape me while I was playing holes. And he would ask me, okay, what are you thinking on this next shot? What are you doing? What are you going to choose? Kind of just take me through your process, essentially. So yeah, I think it's pretty great.
That's awesome. Well, last question I have here, this might be a couple parter, but whenever you're out recruiting, whenever that might be, are you allowed to talk to parents, just on the cart path? Is it age dependent on like how old the player is? And can you kind of talk about maybe some of the dates that way some of the parents can understand like when you're allowed communication with the kids via email, text, in person, that sort of thing?
So I can't have any contact so I can't communicate with any player or parent until the June 15th before their junior year. So that is the first time I can actually, respond back to them and say, hey, I've been looking at you, and kind of talk to them about jewelry. Other than that, they can email me as much as they want. They can send me as many videos as they want and just kind of keep them on my radar. But yeah, I can't I can't technically talk to any coach or any parent or a student athlete until
So
June.
within that said, though, we talked about earlier how freshman year is a good time to get your name out there. If kids are sending emails when they're freshmen, you might not be allowed to respond, but you're getting that information and you're
Exactly. And I
storing it
might
until
save
you're
it.
allowed, right?
Yeah. So I'll
Okay.
save it and I'll say, okay, this is a graduate of, 2024 or something like that. So yeah, I definitely have files where I'm saving that information and I'm kind of keeping track and watching every summer and checking, stats on them. So
Are
yeah.
you now whenever you are like if there's a player that you cannot talk to until June 15th going into their junior year, do the same rules apply for their parents as well?
Yeah. It does apply
So
for kids.
if you're at a golf tournament and you're recruiting a player or watching them, you're not being rude to a parent if you're right next to them, not talking to them. Just rules don't allow you to do so, right?
Exactly. Yes,
Okay.
correct. Yeah. And I do think that a lot of people aren't aware of that as well because, I get a lot of emails and I just don't respond. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to make this seem like it's not like I'm not trying to ignore you, but I can send a pretty vague email, but then it kind of gets a little gray if I start sending like vague emails, like, okay, I can't talk to you until, the 15th of June before your junior year.
Right.
So then, it's on file that I've sent communication back and forth to them. So I just try not to say anything at all to save my butt, essentially.
Yeah, I hear you. And like I said, that's smart. And that's why I'm happy that we can have this sort of conversation because so many people don't know that these sort of rules exist.
Yeah.
So they might see you out on the golf course at River Cut recruiting or something like that and assume like, why would I want my kid to play there? She's rude. She wouldn't talk to me. But it's just the way the rules are. So I want everybody to hear that sort of thing.
So I do know that we can't even go to tournaments to view players play until like the final day. So the final round is the only day that we can be on the course in a tournament. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, hey, I believe it. The last question I have for you here, this is again kind of involving the parent side of things, but whenever you are out at a course recruiting, are you almost paying attention to parental behavior as much as the kids and what the parents are doing, how they're treating the kids, all that sort of thing too?
Yeah. Yeah. Because my relationship with the student athlete is between me and the student athlete, not with me and the parents. That is one thing that is almost a turnoff whenever I'm recruiting is when I hear more from the parent than I do from the actual student athlete that I'm recruiting. That typically I'm like, I don't know if I want that on my team because that means the parent's going to be overly involved. And I get it. I had a dad that was very involved in golf and he was very hard on me, but ultimately he left it to be where it was my decision for college. He never did reaching out for college coaches for me. He left it up to me. So yeah, definitely big on, watching parents and how they react and interact with their kids during golf. So
yeah, I think that's one of those things that kind of goes under the radar. Like there's so many things like let's get our swing right, let's make sure we're pitching it well, let's get signed up in the right tournaments. But little things like that matter when you're trying to decide, when you're trying to take a pool of 100 kids and narrow it down to the 3 people you might sign for a year. It matters.
Definitely. Yeah. It's and it's hard. I've had to deal with some helicopter parents and it just comes to the point where you have to be like, I'm not trying to be rude, but this is between me and your daughter, not between you, me, and her daughter, So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, CJ, I appreciate you taking the time this morning to chat with me and hopefully just better educate the junior golfers and families in Southwest Missouri. Hopefully through this over the years, we're able to send some really good, high character, really good players to your program as you continue to build it and, to really create what you've got going right now. So, like I said, just thank you for coming on. I wish you certainly all the best to your family and both your team in this kind of uncertain time right now. And hopefully we can be on the course again soon.
I know, right? Hopefully.
Yeah.
With this ends.
Well, yeah. Well, all the best to you, and we will hopefully see you soon.
Okay, that sounds good, Kevin.
Thanks, CJ.
Thanks.